We need to talk about AI agents. You know, these incredibly powerful new tools we're building. Specifically, how do we control them? How do we tame the ghost in the machine? Well, the answer is something called governance. And it all starts with a very simple and kind of scary problem.
So picture this. You're sitting in a driverless car, but instead of taking you home, it just starts driving in circles, around and around the same parking lot. You can't get it to stop. Is it a glitch? A hack? How in the world do you take back control?
And here's the thing. This isn't some far-off science fiction plot. This kind of thing has actually happened to people. It's a perfect example of the massive challenge we're facing as we hand over more and more autonomy to AI.
Now, this is way bigger than just cars. We're talking about a whole new breed of AI called agents. See, these aren't your typical programs. You don't give them step-by-step instructions. You just give them a goal, a big, high-level goal, and they figure out how to get there on their own. But what happens when the path they choose is one we never, ever intended?
We've already seen some pretty high-profile examples of AI going off the rails. You probably remember Microsoft's chatbot, Tay. It went online and, well, it pretty quickly learned to be incredibly toxic. Or look at the Compass software used in the justice system, which turned out to have serious biases in its decision-making. These aren't just little bugs. These are mistakes with huge, real-world consequences. And this isn't just a concern for a few tech enthusiasts. Get this, a full 80% of business leaders see things like ethics, trust, and bias as a major roadblock to AI adoption. And it makes sense, right? If we can't fundamentally trust these systems, we can't really use them.
Okay, so this is where AI governance comes into the picture. It's basically the rule book, the framework we absolutely have to build before we let these powerful agents off the leash.
The best way to think about it is as a set of guardrails, the barriers on the side of a winding mountain road. They're the processes and standards we put in place to make sure these AI systems stay on the road, that they're safe, fair, and aligned with our human values.
So, guardrails sounds great, but what does that actually look like? How do you build them? Well, there's a really solid framework that breaks this whole challenge down into 5 key pillars.
Here they are: alignment, control, visibility, security, and societal integration. And this isn't a buffet. You can't just pick and choose. You need all 5. Each one supports the others, and together they create a structure that's strong enough to make sure these agents are working for us, not, well, you know. Let's dig into each one.
First up, we have alignment. This is the foundation of everything. It's all about making sure the agent's goal is truly in sync with what we actually want and what we value.
And in the real world, this means writing a clear code of ethics for the AI, but it's more than that. It's about having ways to automatically detect goal drift. That's when the agent starts veering off course. It even means having a human review board that can step in and make sure it stays on track.
Okay, so the goals are aligned. Fantastic. But that's only half the battle. You also have to be able to step in and enforce the rules. That brings us to pillar number 2, control. This is all about the practical, hands-on safeguards. We're talking about things like deciding which actions always require a human to sign off, or limiting the agent to a specific list of approved tools. And yep, it means designing and actually practicing with a kill switch for a worst-case scenario. You have to have one. All right, so we've got alignment and we've got control. But how do you know when to use that control if you can't see what's going on? You can't. That's why the third pillar is visibility. If you can't observe what an agent is doing, you can't trust it, period. This is all about eliminating the black box problem. It means making sure every action is logged, that every agent has a unique ID so you can trace what it did, and having a plan ready for when you need to investigate an incident. It's about making the invisible visible. Now, once you have this powerful, visible AI agent doing its thing, it immediately becomes a target. You've got to protect it. And that is pillar number 4, security. If it's not locked down, someone's going to try to hijack it. The name of the game here is proactive defense. You have to think like an attacker, model threats like prompt injections, test your agents in isolated sandboxes so they can't do any real damage, and constantly run tests to find the weaknesses before the bad guys do. So after all that, after you've aligned, controlled, observed, and secured your agent, there's one last step. You have to look up from the keyboard and consider its impact on the actual world. This is the 5th and final pillar, societal integration.
This is where we wrestle with the really big questions. Like, who's legally on the hook when an AI makes a mistake? How do we work with regulators? You can even build legal rule engines so the AI can check for itself if an action it's about to take is, legal. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some academic theory on a whiteboard. This stuff is being put into practice right now by governments and companies all over the globe.
And it's actually fascinating to see the different approaches taking shape. You've got the European Union with its AI Act, which takes this really broad, risk-based approach to everything. Then you look at the US, where it's more focused on specific industries like banking. And then Canada's got this whole other scoring system for its own government tools. The point is, everyone is trying to figure this out, and the global rulebook is literally being written as we speak.
So where does all this leave us? What's the most important thing to remember as we move forward? It's that this is not a one-and-done kind of deal. Governance is not a checklist that you just tick off and then you're finished. It has to be a continuous, living process. Because the AI is going to keep getting smarter, the rules are going to change, and our frameworks have to evolve right along with them.
And that brings us to the one final, crucial question that everyone in this space needs to be asking themselves. As we build these incredible new tools, it's not just about what they can do. It's about whether we've done the hard work to make sure they do it right. So let me ask you, is your governance ready for your agents?